Go. Kris.
Hey, buenos días.
Buenos días, hermano. ¿Cómo estás?
Está bien, gracias. ¿Y tú?
Hey, we're doing great. I haven't got COVID yet, so I guess we're doing well, right?
Hey, all right, yes.
That is awesome. How's Kentucky treating you?
Oh, it's well. It's well. Great staff, good people.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes me very
Yeah.
happy.
We're really blessed. I think between our athletic director, the president of the university, and my boss, Lonnie Green, that just there's a sense of comfort and knowing that there are people that are doing a great job to make sure that we're all safe. And so it's a good place to be right now.
That is awesome. Yeah, I have heard very nice things about Coach Green. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him, but yeah, I'm glad that you are there and you're doing great. You're certainly doing great. I mean, we're going to be talking quite a bit about that today. So
Yeah.
that is awesome, Kris. First and foremost, thank you for joining us, and also for thank you to University of Kentucky. I know that things have changed. I mean, and there is a question in regards to a comparison between the good old times and what is today.
Mm.
So we're not going to get too much into that. I just want to say thank you, and also thank you to the university, for allowing us to connect. I really appreciate it. I think that
I will pass that along to them. It's a great opportunity when there's so much stuff that seems to be going on that's challenging. Kind of gets you twisted up a little bit. It's good to be talking about some normal stuff.
Yes. Yeah, keeping us normal is huge for we have been spending a lot of time in the house. That there was a point where I started. I'm not much of a runner, to be honest with you. I got into jiu-jitsu many years ago, and then I stopped for work. I was just lifting a little bit from time to time, but I wasn't much of a runner. And I'm telling you that if there is something that I started doing that I was not doing before COVID, is I started running a lot more. So, I just needed to exercise.
Yeah.
So, Kris, you know what? Just to get a little background. I mean, I know you for a long time, but I'm sure there is a lot of people that want to know a little bit more about you. How did you ended up in coaching? I mean, tell me a little bit about your background. How from your time as an athlete, I think that was a long journey.
Yeah. Well, I grew up on a farm, and so we were always very active, and it seemed like I always did well in sports. Maybe just because I had put up hay or worked with cows or whatever it was. Just being just generally fit. And I really was not interested in being a distance runner, which they seemed to be interested in making me into a distance runner. And I saw the guys over pole vaulting, and I thought, hey, that looks a lot better to me. So I kind of went to the field events. In high school, I threw discus and long jumped and pole vaulted, and I was just okay. But I had an opportunity to go to Abilene Christian, which at the time was the place to be. If you wanted to be a pole vaulter, there was only a couple places in the country. And for whatever reason, I count my blessings daily that I had the opportunity to go be a part of that thing at Abilene Christian and be around some fabulous athletes, but also our head coach, Don Hood, was doing amazing things with a team, bringing people from all over the world, and that was really an important part of my life. And so fortunate to be a part of that.
That is awesome. So that was as an athlete, and then as a coach.
Is that if I do that? Can you see me? Am I still straight up and down?
You're up and down. Looks like you did the pole vaulting thing right there. You ended up inverting.
Well, I had. How about that? Is that no? That's sideways. Okay.
Right in there. Yeah. I mean, now I kind of I honestly thought that you were, or I was going over the bar and I was looking at you upside down, or you basically were pole vaulting.
Yeah.
You went inverted, one or the other one.
I was doing my best impression of an old guy trying to pole vault again. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Well, on the coaching side, you know what? I don't know that I ever. There was a lot of things that happened in my life that I didn't ask questions about. One was going to Abilene Christian, and then two was choosing a major. I recall my dad helping me learn how to snap a football for football. And he was very technical about how you do this and this, and so the mechanics of it, really, that was kind of interesting to me. But then when I first got to college, it was, I was education, physical education, psychology. And then I heard there was this thing that you could do, sports psychology. And I said, well, hey, that sounds good. So I'll just do that. And then I worked on a sports psychology degree. And then as a part of that, I took a biomechanics class. And I'm like, well, hey, that's really interesting. I'm going to get into that. So it just kind of happened. I don't know. I don't ask a lot of questions. I'm grateful for the experiences that I've had, and that the opportunities that I've had have led me in a way that, I couldn't have planned for myself. So I don't know that I had much to do with, other than just walking through the doors that were open to me, and just kind of following that thing where, if you will, God had a plan for me and I followed it.
And today you are in Kentucky. That's
And
nice.
Wonderful place. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I've had, over the years, I've had an opportunity to work with some great people and some great institutions. Most of them actually were land grant schools. And it kind of matches my personality, kind of technical, mechanical, agricultural kind of deal. And so it seems to fit for me. I don't know if maybe it's just kind of random, but again, it was kind of one of those things that I don't ask too many questions. I just kind of go with it. But then, I got a call a couple years ago from Coach Green, and he and I have known each other for, I don't know, almost, well, maybe even longer than you and I have known each other. And both grew up at the same time. He was making his way from Missouri to Minnesota to Arkansas, and I was kind of making my way around the upper Midwest and out to the West Coast, and then back to the Midwest again. Before Texas, and then now Kentucky. But I wake up and people will ask me questions and about my experience, and I'll be like, I can't imagine having been more blessed to work with the men and women that I've worked with over the years. Just some extraordinary coaches. Many of them are in the Hall of Fame, and I've had the opportunity to sit in rooms with them, and so I'm grateful for that. It's been a really interesting journey.
That is awesome, Kris. Kris, who was your biggest influence as a coach? I mean, we all have somebody that probably shaped us a little bit here and there. So I do know you had a very close relationship with your dad, and I'm sure that was probably your pillar. Okay,
yeah.
But as a coach, who was that guy that said, you know what, that person is my biggest influence as a coach, what you are today?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I couldn't really pin it down to one person. I would say that the head coaches that I've had, Lonnie Green is an extraordinary man. Pat Henry, wonderful. Gary Pepin at Nebraska, and Rick Sloan, Gerald Gatson at Michigan State. All these men were extraordinary role models for me as far as how to treat people well, how things are done the right way. And certainly I got a lot of technical experience from them as far as coaching is concerned. But probably from the technical side, and coaching, getting down and dirty in the jumps, in the combined events, Dan Paff is at the top of the list.
Very good.
Gary Winkler was early, Jerry Clayton, Cliff Revelto, certainly in the high jump in particular. Cliff was a huge influence. Our conversations, you and I having conversations, were very important in kind of the genesis of how I understand the high jump.
Hey.
And how that really it's been a beautiful thing this year, where I kind of walked into a situation at Kentucky with some extraordinary athletes, and we've added some more. But to have that kind of background and the influence from all of that kind of put together to kind of come up with an idea about how do we approach the high jump at Kentucky, and you know, and it's been working really well, and certainly you know, the athletes have a lot to say about that.
Man, I just want to let you know that I am blessed to have you as a friend. Thank you. You're great.
Same here.
You have been in the game for a long time, you know, and it's obvious. How do you think the NCAA has changed in the past 20, 25 years? I mean, from a track and field perspective, you know, like our coaches. Maybe I'm going to try to explain myself a little bit. I consider myself an old school coach. Okay, I am a mentor, and I remember my coaches were almost like second fathers to me, and basically those people that gave you a lot more than just track and field, and that's the way I try to carry myself. The guy that sometimes was walking around the track with a timer, and if you needed to talk, he put his arm around your shoulder and walk around the track, guiding you in something that probably had nothing to do with track. Okay, those are the good old times. I understand that. But you are inside the game. I am not. So, in your perspective, how much do you think that it has changed from the times that I described to now?
You know, I've always been one that I guess kind of you know, you tell me what the rules are and I'll follow them, and then I'm going to kick your ass, kind of. You know, kind of just figure it out, kind of a deal. And actually the result, the reality is that I think I have better relationship with my athletes today than I ever had. You know, I had to learn how to do that. That wasn't something early in my coaching career that I was great at. I mean, I was great at intensity and I was great at kind of fundamentals and writing workouts, but the relationships part has really changed. And I'm really grateful for that. You know, today I've got a group of athletes that I truly care about, and they are generous with their time and effort to, you know, for us communicating. So I guess you know, I mean, it can be a challenge. You know, a lot of the rules. I think the important part is that I have to know what the rules are. And I think in general, my feeling is that the rules are made for the betterment of the student athlete and the coaches. You know, I think a lot of us early on would go 100 miles an hour, 24/7, 365, and we were kind of allowed to do that because we were a little bit in track and field. We're a little bit in the wild, wild west back then, and nobody really paid attention to us. But then they started paying attention and they said, hey, you know what, this is not healthy. It's not good for the team, for the kids, for the coaches at all. So let's see if we can't kind of give some guidance and direction here. And so, you know, and certainly the people that are helping along, trying to, you know, give that direction to us, have our best interests in mind. And so I try to be open. I try to understand exactly what it is that the direction that they're giving us, and then really just try to go out and be the best that we can be, knowing that we're dealing with young people, and you know, this is not all their life, and that's okay. Sometimes I would like for them to want it to be a bigger part of their life, but the reality is they're college students. Unlike in other parts of the world, you know, they've got to go to class and they've got social life, and you know, they've got family issues. You know, today I can do a better job of being present for them in those circumstances and responding in a way that might be constructive for them.
That is awesome. That is awesome. What a blessing. What is your ideal recruit?
Ideal recruit? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Somebody that jumps high. I mean, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, really, the reality is that, I mean, not to be funny about it.
No, it is what it is.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if that's a huge deal. You know, when you start with that, particularly in the SEC and the NCAA at this level, you got to be able to jump. And you know, and then after that is, I think you develop a relationship with somebody, and if you click, then I think you got something going. That if you don't, then they need to find a place where they do click with somebody. But a big part of that is you got to work hard at it. You got to develop relationships with a number of people and find out which ones work and which ones don't. Obviously, there's you know, a lot of issues relative to finances. You know, I mean, some people have plenty of money, some people don't have any money, and most people have some money, but they need some help. And the reality is, in Division I at the NCAA, man, on the men's side, we just don't have a lot of money. You know, and particularly you're dealing with a one event. You know, a lot of times a one event guy. So if they're going to hit, if you're going to give them big money, they got to be able to hit it hard. And you know, you look at the SEC on the men's side this year; it was crazy. You know, I mean, you know, the amount of talent that's in there, and you know, but I mean, at the end of the day, they got to compete as well. So you know, I like to see the people win championships. Whether it's their state meet, their district meet, USATF or whatever, you know, on the day when it's important, they can get it done. That's a big deal. It's one thing to have somebody that can jump really high, but they got to be able to do it on the day. And because that's when we're going to count on them. You know, frankly, we have 4 meets a year: indoor SECs, outdoor SECs, indoor and outdoor NCAAs. Those are the ones that they pay us for at the University of Kentucky. You know, all the other stuff, we absolutely will be there and be supportive for our student athletes throughout the year, no matter what they want to do. And everybody's a little bit different. Some of them are going to be, you know, back at home in high school in the U.S., or, I mean, with their high school coaches in the summer, or some of them are going to be in Europe or in South America, the Caribbean. And we'll do our best to support them as well, keeping good communications with their coaches and so forth. So it's kind of a big deal. I mean, like, you know, relationships, you know, the ability for somebody, I think families are important. You know, it's, you know, that the athlete needs to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. They need to be mature enough that they can come off to college and they can do the kind of things that we ask them to do, which is very reasonable. I mean, it's what they say they want, right? They want to be successful at the highest level. Then they need to be able to do that in our environment. So that's important as well.
Very good. Very good. What is a big no-no for you as a college coach as far as recruiting? What I mean is, let's imagine you have a potential recruit. What are the things that this particular recruit will do that will get you to go, whoa? I mean, that's a turnoff, okay?
Yeah.
What would it be?
I would say, yeah, probably the standard stuff. I mean, you know, clean up your social media. I mean, that's really the biggest deal. Like, if, you know, hopefully you don't have to clean it up. You know, hopefully your social media is what it needs to be. You know, really, I don't know that I have kind of the ones that kind of toss you out the window, really. I think one of the challenges that we face in recruiting is that as college coaches, we're really pretty, I mean, we've been doing this a lot, right? So we get on the phone the first time with a young person and find out that they haven't really been on the phone with adults a lot. So it's okay and it's fine. Everybody has got to figure out how to do it sometime. So I think just, you know, honesty, being frank, being true to themselves, you know, like not trying to be somebody they're not. You know, I think just being genuine, anybody that's genuine and honest, gives their best shot. I mean, there's really nothing that's going to disqualify you.
Right. Cool. Awesome. High jump. Let's go. Let's get a little bit more into what we do. High jump. Okay. High jump is always evolving. Okay. Jumpers, coaching, training. What, in your opinion, from back in the day when you started as a young coach and what you saw around, what are the tendencies that have change or improve. You know, I mean, we all have seen the old videos of how. I mean, sometimes I think that I I had a lot of injuries due to the way I used to train. You know, as time passes, I realized that I did a lot of unnecessary things. I mean, there was and probably, you know, I might have reacted differently. Um, or as coaches, sometimes we think, you know what, I really wish I knew what I know then, what I know now. And actually, I'm gonna share with you a good a say that somebody told me. It says, Hugo, um, experience is a comb that someone gives you when you are already bald. so so at that point I was like, you know what, that's a pretty good one. Okay, so
Yeah.
I actually I use that one a lot. So in your opinion, what is your what is the difference between the old, what you saw when you were growing up, and actually when you went to college and when you were starting to be a coach, as far as high jump training methods, and how what you are doing now and how the kids are reacting? Because I understand also, I think that back in the day we grew up playing outside, so we built a work capacity that I believe that the kids these days just don't have. So I believe that some of them, they get overtrained very fast. You
Yeah.
know, so please share with me or with us.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I think there's two parts to that, and one is the training loads. The other part is the biomechanics. Um, you know, on the training loads, I think one of the things that I noticed that my what has changed for me is that the lower intensity work, um, I've become to understand that the low intensity kind of running, or jumping rope or whatever, that has actually, the intensity level is dropped and extended. And part of that is that we need volume. At some point we need volume, but what I was trying to do was I was trying to interpret what everybody said was, you know, jumpers just need to jump, and you know, you need to keep it fast and that sort of thing. And what I realized is that there is definitely this place for foundational fitness work, right? But what was happening is that I was trying to do it too fast, right? And I was doing it with too short a recovery. So I had too much speed and not enough recovery. And so what ended up happening was we never got enough volume in. And so I've tried to relax a little bit as I've gotten a little bit older. Again, they kind of, a little bit of wisdom is allow people to experience foundational type training at a modest pace, not to necessarily feel like they have to press and kill it all the time. I mean, there are certainly times when we need to get after work, right? And we need to be dead dog tired when we get done, but that's not all the time, right? The other part of that is that leads into the other part, which is efficiency. And if I give somebody the opportunity to work at high volumes, at pretty low intensity, what they end up becoming is more efficient. And this, and I can see that there's a few of my athletes on here, they're probably laughing and thinking, this is where it comes, here it comes. Okay. Is that efficiency begins, the analogy that I like to start with is, if I'm going to get shot out of a cannon, what position would I like to be in, right? That's pretty much straight up and down, right? I don't want to be bent at the hips. I don't want my head down. I don't want to be bent at the knees. I want to be pretty extended. So when I get shot out of the cannon, I get shot out. Now, the conversation that you and I had that goes a part of this is your training when you were young, when your coach would get on your shoulders. Very much the same thing, right?
Yep.
Now, the thing that, and coming from some of the other areas, is that we know that if we do a volume, a serious volume, what we see is that people either they get efficient or they get hurt, right? So one of the things is that I try to help them kind of understand where they need to be in that posture, and then give them the opportunity to practice that over and over again. The reality of this whole thing sounds like it's really complicated. The reality is that it's very simple. It may be the simplest thing that there is. So like jumping rope, jumping on a trampoline, just plain jogging. There's a lot of postural kind of centering exercises that get us to that point. Where we run into trouble is that we start adding in what we think is the right thing to do. So I need to be springy when I'm going out for a 10-minute run or something like that. So I get up on my toes. Well, that's the way the body works, right?
Right.
So what we try to do is we try to find ways to get us into a position where we're here, and then be solid with that and repeat it, and then progress that into drills. You can go online anytime and find a 10-year-old kid running and jumping, and they jump with ideal technique. It's because it's intuitive, right? People know how to jump. Well, what ends up happening is that through injury or bad information or bad thoughts that we just kind of get out of it. But there's a lot of ways that we can kind of bring us back to center. And certainly in the high jump, there is no event it's more important than to transfer energy well from the ground up through the body to give you lift. So this is probably the most important event that it occurs in, and it's the one that, of course, this year has been fun kind of watching it work out.
It is, and you know what? It's exactly you hit it right in the nail, and it's going to go perfect with the next question. I have been watching you since you arrived to Kentucky, and I saw the athletes basically prior you arriving to Kentucky and how they have developed. You have applied concepts in an awesome way, okay? And you're looking at Helen Ekholm, that basically she arrived to Kentucky jumping 6 feet back in Sweden. And today, the girl is jumping 6'3". That's a 3 inches increment. And I think that she was very consistent and extremely competitive when it matters. I mean, the girl was jumping great. Same thing happened with Minor. I mean, Minor, I believe that he jumped 7 feet in high school. And today he's jumping 7'3". You know, the same kind of development. So, in your opinion, share with me basically how was working with these two kids since you arrived there.
Well,
because I see the difference.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, yeah, and I think a lot of times it's learning environments. I mean, I certainly am. I can only speak for just what's happened in the last 2 years, so I can say that one, you have, and those two are the ones that kind of stand out. But there's 3 or 4 more that are right coming along as well, that are committed. They are hungry to jump high. Please
name them, so you can give them their place too. I mean, they deserve the recognition.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's. I mean, Trey Causey and Carly Hinkle and Annika Williams. Annika's quite a young one that's challenged with some injuries, but for the very same reasons that we're talking about here. Is that these kind of changes that we're asking of these young people don't happen overnight. I mean, they didn't. Okay, here's the thing. Again, when you go back to this idea that what's the best attribute in a recruit? Well, they jumped high, right? Well, Ellen and Rahman jumped high, right? So now, how did they get there, right? And did they do it as efficiently as possible or whatever? Okay. I guess the most important thing is to say, one, and I shared this with them very much the same way, which is I'm not asking you to do anything you don't already know how to do. What you do is very intuitive to you, right? You understand how to jump. Now, the problem is is that there have been times when whether training was a little bit too much, or maybe I had a heavy course load. Certainly that's the case. Maybe I have some bad ideas, or somebody gave me some different information that maybe wasn't quite right. You know, there's all sorts of reasons why somebody can't be the best they can be. But when you get a group of people together, and I think Coach Green does a wonderful job creating an environment for us at Kentucky where people recognize they can be the best they can be, and if that, then our team can be extraordinary, right? So fundamentally, I think the key here is that my general approach to this is a very general jumps approach, which is any throwing or jumping, including hurdles or a javelin, or includes pole vault, high jump, triple, all these things. The models that I looked at from the very beginning, what you saw hips extended and an active takeoff leg, right? Well, the problem is that we have a language problem, and it's not just in English. If I have somebody and they're sitting with me and we're talking about jumping, and I ask them to demonstrate a jump, the first thing that they do when they stand up is they bend their knees, they bend at the hips, and they lean forward, and then they jump back up, okay? So that's exactly the way that you jump if what you're doing is 2-foot contact and you're doing a vertical jump. When I add speed to it, now the issue is I do almost exactly the opposite, right? I do my best not to lean forward. I do my best not to break at the hips, and I do my best to not bend my knees. I'm doing just the opposite. In fact, I'm trying to resist knee bend at that point. And what I want to do is I have an active landing with my takeoff leg. And if you'll let me show you real quick. This is, I don't know if you can see. Wait a minute.
I can see it right there. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of the deal is that what many of us feel like is that the illustration where the hips are bent is okay, but the reality is the extended hips on the right, the straight body, that's the ideal position, right?
Yes.
And with an active takeoff leg.
Right. Yes. It's because a line of force is going to be basically all inside the body, and it's going to go all the way through pretty much our whole skeleton.
Exactly.
So you're hitting solid all the way through. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
If not, force is just going to break you down in any air pocket you may have.
Yes. Yes. So everything that we do. So part of it is that we have the same name for that as we have for that first thing that I described.
Yes.
They're both called jump or salto or whatever it is. There's in every language, whether it's Swedish or Trey or Spanish or English or French or whatever, everybody has the same problem. We have the same word for two almost completely different activities, right? And so when a coach says, hey, you just need to go down and jump, the question is, what are they thinking? Do they run down the runway? Do they bend over at the hips? Do they bend the knee and try to push straight down? Well, if they do that, the problem is they're running at 8 meters per second or 7 meters per second, and they take their foot and they slam it straight down. Now their foot's going 0, right? And that means you get a hinged moment and the body rotates over the top, right? So that's one of our biggest issues. And when we have our first of the year meetings, we talk about it regularly, but in our first of the year meetings is we have to define what the word jump means for a single support, horizontal velocity takeoff. And again, it actually applies to the javelin, the discus, the tennis. It applies to all the different hitting and throwing and jumping activities, hurdling as well. So at the end of the day, and again, back to this idea that we want to be, we want what position do we want to be when we get shot out of a cannon? Well, that extended position. It's the same position. Go watch a little Jonathan Edwards. Go watch a little Stefka Kastanova. Oh my goodness. Like in 1988, she stood apart in the Olympic Games as having this amazingly short ground contact time at takeoff. And that was the first kind of my introduction to technical aspect of high jump.
Mm-hmm.
And so always been with me ever since that point. And I always tried, and I was, really working to try to figure it out. It's amazing that Louise Ritter was able to beat her in Seoul. That record that Casanova has still stands, for 19 years or something crazy like that. So at any rate, that was a strong influence for me to kind of watch her early on and to see what she did and try to figure out how do we do that. And then to come to the realization through a lot of these conversations, like our conversations, is that it's very intuitive. Yes. It's a very natural thing to have happen. And all you have to do is go online and click little kids long jumping. And you'll see kids doing exactly what I just showed you, that takeoff position. So the question is, how do we get back to that point for a lot of these ones, right? Ramon's a great example of somebody who really likes to muscle the jump. He likes to feel like he's doing work when he's jumping. And so that's been a really interesting. And I tell you, sometimes he and I don't talk an awful lot, but with our mouths. But when I watch him do, I know that he and I are communicating, right? Mm. Because he's doing, right? And that to me is the most important thing. Is if we have a level of communication where the ideas that I'm trying to share with him, he is expressing in the way that he runs to the bar and takes off. I think that's why when we got to the SEC championships this year, I tell you what, I'm standing there watching both of those high jumps and I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. You got Ellen on the left, you got Ramon on the right, and you got Carly and you got Annika and you got Trey, right? Right. And our kid, those two, Ellen and Ramon, went in there and they absolutely lit that place up. And part of it is that if I'm efficient, right? If I'm efficient in my technique, then when the pressure is on, then I'm going to have the ability to kind of stay in that efficiency, right? And I think that's what we saw them, and that's why they were able to compete so well in those high pressure kind of situations, is because the other part of it was them, right? I wasn't asking them to do something that wasn't intuitively who they understood they were, right? I just try to get them to be the best them they can be, and then when the pressure comes on, they are just themselves.
That's awesome. And it's actually very, very interesting that you say something in here. At the end of the day, you are letting the athlete be. By them being themselves, there are less things that they are thinking about or less distractions, so they are able to compete and have that peace of mind. That's awesome, Kris. Good stuff, by the way. Thank you. Could you give an example of a typical preseason week for training for the high jumpers in Kentucky, and then also competition week? Like, give an example of 2 weeks. 1 week, a typical week of from Monday through Sunday of preseason. What do you guys do? And then competition season afterwards.
Sure. What I would say is that our weeks look very similar. So, like for example, whether it's a week in October or whether it's a week in May, they follow kind of the same pattern throughout the year. Now, obviously, the rest work ratios are going to be quite a bit different. The intensity levels change, but in the fall, for example, so generally what we look at is we're gonna lift. We'll go into the weight room, and it's a little difficult. What I would say is we talk about lifting, but it's strength development. Okay, so. Right. This is kind of a big question to answer without having some illustrations, but fundamentally what we're going to do is we're going to go. Monday is going to be kind of intensive, extensive tempo, right? So we're going to do more longer runs up to like 200 meters. We don't go as far as timed runs. We're not going to go much longer than that with a restricted recovery time. So we might do like 8 or 10 200s. With like a 90-second recovery at a fairly modest pace, so like the women might be running like 38 or 40 seconds. The guys are running 34, 35 seconds. Really, really not hard for them to do from the standpoint of a single rep. Now, you put it all together, and then it starts to get intense over a period of about 10 or 12, 15 minutes. Tuesdays and Thursdays are often going to be kind of acceleration days, jump days. And then we come back and we climb late in the week, let's say on Friday. Periodically, and this is a little bit new for me, is that, I like it, is that Coach Green feels very strongly that we work during the week and we take the 2 days on the weekend. And I've always trained Saturday mornings, and still probably we will a little bit, if based on just timing, maybe we'll try to get that balance in there, but we try to get most of that work done during the week. So we've got a couple jump days and a couple kind of fitness days that we have kind of going along. And then we'll lift those 3 of those days, 2 or 3 of those days. And we'll basically kind of we'll have some sort of squatting action, some sort of Olympic action, and then we'll be some jumping that kind of is put in there with them together. And then there'll be some auxiliary activity that might be in a circuit format. And a lot of times the circuits will be very good for recovery and restoration from the kind of the running stuff that we're doing, the eccentric loading that goes along with a little bit higher volume running. But fundamentally, as I sent a note out to the group this week, I said, hey, first we run and then we jump, right? So we need to be running. And so they need to be getting that volume in now during the summer, a couple days, 3-4 days a week, getting out and doing some runs. There's a whole sequence of dribbling exercises. Dan Paff at Altus has been doing it for 30 plus years, has brought some people retirement essentially because of injuries and got them healthy. The reality to me, though, a lot of that is that they were dysfunctional. He showed them through dribbling exercises and postural centering exercises how to be functional and to have firing patterns that worked rather than firing patterns that were working against each other. Okay. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that's kind of that's what we might see in September, October. Well, probably September with the longer 200s. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. For example, so when you're talking about your strength, people call it lifting, but I know there is a mix. You're looking at a lifting, transfer with jumps and stuff like that. Those are usually 2 or 3 times a week. Well, okay, so early we're going to be right. Yeah. So part of that is that early on we're going to be doing circuit stuff, right? So we'll be doing stuff like flipping tires, pulling sleds, pushing prowlers, walking on our hands, doing the ropes and that sort of thing, right? So that'll be the vast majority of our work early on. We'll get at some point, we probably will get to 3 days, but generally we basically have 2 days of strength development per week for the entire year. There might be a 3rd day at times if we feel like we have room for it or a need for it, but for the most part, it's 2 days a week. Very interesting. Yeah, and the other part of it too. Here's another part. I was just having a conversation with a former athlete who was the American junior record holder at one point back when I was in Nebraska, and we talked, and she shared with me again, and I asked her because I wanted to go back and just talk to her to make sure I was right in my recollection, was that she always felt really good. She felt fit and strong and healthy a lot of times. And what we found is that we were sharpening the point a bit too much in the when? Sharpening the point. We were getting too specific in our training. So okay, we were letting go of our circuit type training. It turned out actually with her that we actually ended up going back, and even at the NCAA championships, we might be doing a circuit at the hotel in the hallway or something like that, because of the kind of the feeling that she got. She felt healthy and better when she was doing circuit type training. So we keep that in our work all year throughout the year. In the spring, those workouts we were talking about, oftentimes the Mondays are maybe more along the lines of 2, 3, 4 200s or maybe 150s that are restorative in nature.
But what Ellen shared with me is that, she never thought of herself as a runner, right? And she didn't like running. But what she found, I just talked to her a week or two ago, and she'll probably kill me for saying this in public, but is that she likes to run now, and she feels like she needs to run. She needs to get out and she needs to do those 150s, an integral part of what she's doing. It gives her strength. So that Monday ends up kind of being that more like 150s, and we might throw in a little bit of speed, some 80s or 90s kind of to follow that up. Again, Tuesday still ends up being an acceleration day. And then by Wednesday, we generally are going to be off or light. And then Thursday, we come back with possibly a short session, a short jump session. We might have an early week, an approach session. The higher level athletes that I've been working with, the less they jump from full approach in practice. Ellen, I don't think took any full approach jumps in practice this year. We saved them all for the meets. And it seemed to work for her. Others can do more work in practice. We see the kind of quality that we need to see, but it really is kind of dependent upon the individual.
And you know what? It's very reassuring. Everyone reacts differently, and it's interesting how Helen reacts different than all the other kids. And the key is finding those things. For example, Daniela. We realize that Daniela gets overtrained very quick. I mean, she does. We are sticking with 2 strength trainings, and when we're talking about lifting, actually she lifts probably there are 2 exercises, which is the half squats and calf raises, and then we have to switch it the other day for step ups, But everything with very, very low weight. I mean, that's just the way she reacts, or probably as a process, because I always kept her very much with very low volumes. So we'll see. I mean, this year is going to probably give us some. If COVID lets us jump, it's probably going to give us some. But it's very interesting that what you're sharing, because everyone is different. And those 2 times a week is actually very important.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. I think a lot of people kind of miss on the part is the nature of most high jumpers is long leverage and leverage. So, and particularly, and from a physics standpoint or biomechanics standpoint, one of the challenges that we face is that when you backload a tall, thin body, when they bend, that the point from their lower back to here can be very long, and so they get kind of an exponentially higher level of tension here, right?
Right.
So what ends up happening is that they get overtrained because they have such long levers, and we have to be really cautious about that. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. You stop a little bit, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Now I cannot hear you. Looks like the internet. Now I do. And now you're good now.
Okay. Is to kind of keep in mind that if with a tall, long body, that this may be all I need to get, right? To get the kind of muscle tension that I'm looking for. Now, having said that, I'm a big believer in somebody be able to take their butt and go all the way to their heels. Like, I think they need that kind of range of motion, and we'll do that early on, but we'll do it unloaded, right? We'll do it body weight. And then we add a weight maybe in front, and then we put a weight overhead. And it could be very light. So we can do all sorts of activities with weights on our shoulders or weights above our head, whether they're skipping or jogging. And that's kind of a combination of postural centering again. They're learning how to put energy in, or receive the energy from the ground when you put a little bit extra weight on, or if you put your coach on your shoulders. It kind of exemplifies or exacerbates, what's the word, makes greater the tensions, and you find yourself finding a better posture.
Yes. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I remember when we were training like that, it was kind of like you just didn't have a choice to do it right, because if you or you, I mean, we live in a different country, but you know there was no lawsuit, you know, basically, and the guy that was on your shoulders, he just tell you, hey man, make sure you don't drop me, huh? Okay.
You might need to share with everybody exactly what you're talking about.
That's right. Well, you know, we have shared sometimes the way that you saw my Facebook. Sometimes the way that I used to train back in the day with my coach came from ballet. Actually, my coach was somebody that he was the first male dancer of the Peruvian ballet school. So he was big into transferring forces in motion. Okay, so for us was very much a way to not only you know learn by reading or by somebody explaining what all the books said, because this is high jump where we run a J. Okay, so this is not a situational like wrestling or football where there are a lot more situations that you have to react. No, this is here are the principles of what we need to do, and then, and of course we have to adapt them to the athlete that we have in front of us. You know, that's probably where the tweaking comes. But yes, it was basically we used to train a lot with people over our shoulders, so it helped us feel every time that it's like an antenna principle that, for example, if for any reason you are a little bit off balance, just an inch off balance, your body automatically will feel it, because you know that the exercise is getting harder to do because you are out of balance. So it forces your body to always be in balance, and of course with resistance, in order for you to be able to keep the posture all the way through the exercises. Which, you know, those were the good old days for sure. Kris, that is awesome. Anything else that you wanna for saving for the last part of the show that you want to share, or anything? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, I certainly appreciate our friendship and your wisdom and your experience and your willingness to share with everyone. I think this is a great thing that you do, and I've enjoyed watching some of them and gleaning some information from you as well. And so, thanks for having me. It's wonderful.
Kris, you know what? I always hold you very high, because I met you. I wasn't blessed for you to be my coach, but you were just 8 miles away from where I was, and I always saw the mentor, and for me the mentor much more important than mentor first, coach, person first, coach after. And the person that you are, it basically it really, I saw how enriching was for your athletes, and it bled a little bit on me 8 miles away, so for that I thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Gracias, hermano. Thank you, and please say hello to the family. Thank you for sharing your expertise, Kris.
Absolutely.
We'll be talking. Bye, brother.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.